Welcome to The Car Flip Show. My name's Justin. I was a part-time flipper turned full-time used car dealer. This show is all about teaching you how to buy and sell cars for profit. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. This is episode 15 of The Car Flip Show. I'm glad to have you along for the ride today. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the last 3 cars that I purchased, why I bought them, how much I paid for them, what I expect to make on them, and just kind of the mindset in each vehicle and why I made that purchase and what kind of person may be interested in that vehicle. And also, we're going to look at, actually we'll talk about first, a new resource that actually was just added to thecarflip.com. So if you're on your desktop or if you're on your phone, actually, if you're listening right now and you're on the treadmill, be careful, don't trip, but you could take your phone, you could minimize the podcast, you could click over to thecarflip.com. I'll give you a second to do that. I know you're going through your phone right now. So you're there, you're on Safari or Google, you're at thecarflip.com. If you're on your phone, there's going to be a button or a little icon in the top right. You'll click that, you're going to get a drop-down box. Now, if you're on your desktop, it's just going to be at the top of the screen. It'll say My Toolbox. But on your phone, a little pop down just came. You're going to scroll that box to the bottom. It'll say My Toolbox. And what you're seeing right now, if you're at thecarflip.com, is a list of tools. We're calling it My Toolbox. We may change the name in the future. That was the best name that I could think of off the top of my head. These are things that I use that maybe you're familiar with some of them, like the scanner that I use. It's an Autel. If you're on the page right now, you can see that. I think it's at the top of the list. To the jump box that I use. So you have a dead battery. You're tired of bringing a car over, pulling out jumper cables, and hooking up that way. What jump box do I use? How about if you have something that you need to glue and you're curious about which glue would be the best, or what is my favorite glue, right? How many people have a favorite glue? That's probably sad, but I do have a favorite glue. It's Kwikset 20. On the My Toolbox page, you can see why that is, and you can actually watch a video of me using it to actually fix, I believe, a door panel in that video. So not every single product is going to have a video. In the future, we may update that and add more videos, but it's just a list of things that I use that a lot of folks might not be familiar with. Things like carpet dye. What kind of carpet dye do you need? What is carpet dye? There'll be a video of me using it. If it's not there, it'll be there eventually, of me using carpet dye and actually showing you the kind that I use and what you can do with carpet dye. So it's a cool resource. It's also an area that's going to have Amazon links. So when you're there on the My Toolbox page, if you click into something and you say, wow, that SEM Kwikset 20 is pretty amazing. I need that for fill-in-the-blank product. If you click the link and go to Amazon, which is where I would have bought it to begin with, you're going to be taken to Amazon. You can then click and buy it. If you buy something off of the My Toolbox page, Amazon will give me like $3 if you buy something for like 5 million. Like, it's not much. Like, if you buy something for $12, I get like 2 cents, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. And it's a way for us to subsidize producing these podcasts, whether you're watching on YouTube or on your phone right now. It costs money. We have to pay for storage and we have to pay for a lot of stuff, equipment. I'm paying somebody to edit this. So if it sounds nice, it's Yannick's, that's my video guy. His name's Yannick. He does all my editing, so I have to pay him. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and that's a way that you can, at no extra cost to you, help contribute to this show. I would greatly appreciate it. Not that you have to buy anything from the thing, but if you just go to My Toolbox, if you click on something and save it as a link for Amazon, anything you buy, so if you buy the Kwikset 20, or if you buy a scanner, if you buy whatever, I get a small commission at no extra cost to you. But if you go there and then you buy shampoo for your dog, I also get a commission on that, because they give you like, however, if you're on the page for like 5 minutes, it times out, but I get a commission for anything that you buy when you click there. So shameless promotion for the My Toolbox. A great place, I think, for a lot of you to find things that I use and implement them into your flipping journey. But that is the My Toolbox. I'm excited about it. There'll be a lot more stuff added there in the future. But now we're going to get on to the last 3 cars that I purchased. I'll list them out for you real quick, and then we'll go through them one by one. I'm going to give you a rough rundown of what I paid for them, things that they're going to need. And when I say things they're going to need, like, I just bought these today. We were recording this on a Wednesday. I just bought these 3 cars the previous Friday. Now, all 3 of these cars were purchased at auction. I still do buy vehicles from individuals. I'm still scanning Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. I'm still buying from individuals. Actually, was negotiating with a guy on Facebook Marketplace this morning for a Jeep Wrangler, but I couldn't quite get him down to where I needed him to be, so I'll move on to the next one. But these 3 I bought at auction. The reason I do more at auction now than I do from individuals is more from a time standpoint. all three of these cars, if I were to have bought them from individuals, there's a pretty high chance I probably could have gotten a better deal. I just don't have the time to buy 15, 20 cars a month from individuals. The time that's invested in scanning and actually going and purchasing on those vehicles is more than I can do for the inventory that I need for my car dealership right now. But those three cars are a 2003 Cadillac Escalade, a 2010 Volkswagen Routan. And when I say Volkswagen, some of you may know my feelings and sentiment towards Volkswagens. I'm not the biggest fan of the Volkswagen product, but I actually bought two Volkswagens Friday. The other was a 2006 Volkswagen Tourag. Now, it's actually the first Tourag that I've had, but I did put a lot of time and effort into the pre-purchase side of this. So all three of these vehicles, I went over, I don't want to say with a fine-tooth comb, but I did do a lot of work up front to make sure there weren't any major issues before I purchased them. The one that I was probably the most nervous about was the last one I mentioned, the 2006 Volkswagen Tourag. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Volkswagens. They just seem to be more prone for issues and headaches. I wasn't that concerned about the Volkswagen Routan because all that is basically is a Dodge Grand Caravan, Chrysler Town & Country. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But the first one I mentioned was a 2003 Cadillac Escalade. Now, the reason I bought this one is because it's got a third row. Third row vehicles tend to do a little bit better for me because they're more of a necessity than maybe someone that wants a fill in the blank Ford Escape. Yeah, Ford Escape would be nice, but I also could drive fill in the blank cars. Third row vehicles are on the necessity side of things because someone has 3 kids and it's really tight in the back seat with just a bench row. So maybe they have 4 kids. They have to have the third row. It's something that people look for as opposed to they walk up and they just happen to like the Ford Escape. So I've done well with the Escalades. It's a GM product. It's basically just a Tahoe with a bigger engine. It's got the 6.0. Mechanically, everything seems to check out so far. I had a little bit of a scare on the drive back. It started to overheat a little bit. It was actually low on coolant. We've got a small coolant. It's not going to be a big major thing. I think it's just on a hose, so we have to replace the hose. We'll be good there. At the auction, the reason that I bought this one for the price that I did was because the odometer was not functioning at the auction. When the auctions, I guess the ones that I go to, when the odometer isn't functioning, they can't get a reading on the mileage. They have to announce it as true miles unknown. So it'll say TMU. On the sticker they put on the window, it said 1 mile. So when they're running through the auction, they have a sticker that tells you the year, the run number, and then the mileage. There'll be a barcode you can scan while you're there at the auction if you have the auctions app. But this one said 1 mile. It comes to the auction, they say true miles unknown. What some other people didn't know that I knew is the car only had like 154,000 miles. I knew that because earlier I went out to the auction. I started it over and over again. It had a dead battery, so I had to take a jump box. After it ran for a while, things started to function a little bit better. I don't know yet. I haven't diagged to see if I've got a bad battery or a bad alternator or what's going on. There actually are some lights that are staying on because it thinks the left rear door is open, so we might have a sensor bad inside that door mechanism. But for whatever reason, the battery was stone dead. I started it. The lights on the dash started to come back a little bit, like a gauge would start working here and there. I hit the odometer a couple times, and the mileage flashed. So I saw that it had 154,000 miles. With these Escalades, you do have to be careful if you buy one with a malfunctioning odometer because people drive these things, sometimes into the ground. I've had these with 300,000 miles, and they still run great, but it's very difficult to sell a vehicle with 300,000 miles. So that was a risk that a lot of folks didn't want to take in buying this because it's hard to tell when a vehicle sits in front of you if it has 278,000 miles or if it has 42,000 miles. So I knew how many miles I had. I was bidding with that in my back pocket. I knew that it drove well because after I started it, I drove it around the auction. Everything felt good. So I bought it for $2,500. Now, Escalades have a pretty decent resale value where I'm at. So I would expect, I believe I marked this one at $5,500 is what I expect to sell it for. There's people that are asking $5,000 and $6,000 for ones with over 200,000 miles on it. Mine's in pretty good condition. It's a nice white pearl color. It's got a tan leather interior. The only thing mechanically that I know of so far is to replace the hose in the engine, which is going to be like $17. The AC is not currently blowing cold, but it was when I was at the auction. So I believe I've either got a freon leak, maybe I'm low. I think my compressor is good, so I don't anticipate a ton of expense there. And then I also have to replace the windshield, which the windshields aren't terribly expensive for these. It's the same windshield that goes in like a Tahoe, probably around $200 to replace that, maybe less. I think the last one was actually done for like $170 on a Tahoe, but All in all, I paid $2,500. Just as a rough number, I'm going to say I'm going to have $500 invested in this one from a prep stage of it. So having to buy parts. There's one little body repair I'm going to have to make on the back. It's probably like $100. Just a small little nick where someone bumped into the rear bumper. I say nick, there's actually a hole in the rear bumper type assembly, but it shouldn't be anything too major. So I'll have $500 or less invested out of my pocket in addition to what I paid. So I'm going to say I have around $3,000. If I sell it for $5,500, which I think is being fair, that leaves me a profit of $2,500 on this 2003 Cadillac Escalade. So this should be one that hopefully is ready pretty quick. Get it out on the front line, get it sold. The next that I bought was a 2010 Volkswagen Routan. And the reason I'm doing them in this order, this is actually the order that I purchased them that day. So no specific order. This is just in the, I guess, the time of day I purchased Escalade, Routan, Tourag. I actually bought them all within about 30 minutes of one another. So when a car goes through the auction like this Volkswagen Routan, it's only in front of you for about 10 seconds. So you really can't get a lot of information and data with the vehicle sitting in front of you. Some people at auction, that's their strategy. They show up in the morning. The auction starts at 8:30. They get there at 8:30. The cars come through. They bid, and then they buy. They hope for the best. That's not my strategy. I always go the day before. Look at, drive, I look under. Some people from up north, well, some people from here in the south will go up north, buy cars at auction, bring them to the southern auctions, and then make a profit because people don't take the time to always look under the cars, which is nothing worse than buying a vehicle that looks great and then looking under it and seeing it's a rust bucket. So be careful on that, especially at auction because they do go through so fast. But this Volkswagen Routan I looked at ahead of time. The reason I was comfortable with this vehicle is because a Volkswagen Routan is a Chrysler product. Chrysler owning Dodge, so a Grand Caravan, a Town and Country is the exact same vehicle, exact same engine. Actually, this has a 3.8 liter engine, exact same engine that's in the Town and Country. The side doors are actually the same. The interior is the same. It has the stow and go seats, just like the Chrysler Town and Country and the Dodge Grand Caravan. So I wasn't worried about it because I've had good luck out of those. It only has 85, actually just clicked over to 86,000 miles. It's a leather interior. It's got the touch screen, dual DVD system in the top. It was actually really dirty and someone had smoked in it. So I knew it was going to be a little bit of a chore to get that clean. So my detail guy took care of that this past weekend. It actually came out pretty well. I just ran my ozone machine in it for about an hour last night. The windows are open right now and it's airing out. What an ozone machine is. Actually, that's something we probably need to add to the My Toolbox section of thecarflip.com. That's something that you'll see in there. But this ozone machine basically generates ozone. The ozone flows through the car, has a fan in there that blows it. You leave it sealed up with the fan on recirculate. The ozone gets into the fabric and is supposed to absorb the bad smells. At least that's how I think it works. Either way, after you get done running the ozone machine, your car smells really weird. You let it air out and it takes the place of a smoke smell. So this one came out pretty good after we detailed it. Mechanically, it really doesn't need anything. The only thing I've had to buy so far were two little covers. The holes in the front on the front bumper where fog lights would be. There aren't fog lights on this one, but it still has the holes. The plastic covers that go over that were gone. So I actually ordered those directly from Volkswagen because I couldn't find them online. And they didn't. The ones I was finding weren't any cheaper than the dealer's price, which one of them was $13 and some change. The other was $14 and some change. So not a huge expense there. The front bumper on the passenger side was hanging down a little bit. So all that took was a zip tie to drill a hole up in the front bumper to then connect the bumper to the fender. So it wasn't much involved there. A zip tie, I was good to go mechanically. So far, so good. No problems that I've seen. I paid on this one $4,500. Now, the ones I've bought in the past, I've sold a couple. I've sold an 08 and an 09. On those, I only had between $3,000 and $3,500 invested, and I sold those for anywhere from $5,000 to $5,500. This one having the really low miles. One had 130,000. I think another one I had 140 something thousand miles. This one has only 85,000 miles, so it's going to be in the lower end mileage wise when people look to find them. I'm seeing them priced anywhere from 75 to 8. A couple have gotten closer to 7, but the ones that are priced closer to 7 have like 120,000 miles. So this one I'm pretty safe when I say I'm probably going to sell it for around $7,000. I paid $4,500. Again, I don't know of any huge expenses I'm going to have, but just to be safe, I'm going to set a buffer and say I'm going to have $500 invested in parts, supplies, whatever. I did have to pay my detail guy for 5 hours worth of work on it, so if I have $500 invested after the $4,500, that gives me $5,000 total invested. I'm going to be able to sell it for $7,000. There's an easy $2,000 profit on this one. Now, minivans as opposed to SUVs, I've had probably a little bit better luck selling the SUV than I have a minivan, although a minivan still has a third row. Someone that's looking for a minivan is only going to buy a minivan. Someone that's looking for a third row vehicle might fall into the minivan. They might fall into the SUV. But I've done pretty well with minivans, and a lot of folks that are flipping, a lot of guys especially that like the sports cars, the big pickup trucks, the Jeeps, tend to shy away from the minivans because it's not cool, to be driving around a minivan. I got over that a long time ago. Honestly, I'm not that particular about what I drive. I like for my wife to drive something nice, but as for me, it really doesn't matter. I don't care if I'm driving a minivan. I don't care if I'm driving whatever. If I can make money with it, I'm going to be interested in it. And this is one that I definitely can make money on. So whether it's a minivan or whether it's a Porsche, I don't care. As long as I can make the profit, I like to hit that $2,000 profit, and I can definitely do it on this one. So this will be something great for a family that's looking for something low mileage that also is in good shape. And it's fairly new. It's a 2010. So I should do pretty well on this one. Hopefully it'll be out for sale by the end of this week, today being Wednesday. I've got a couple of little small detail things to do that I should have finished up in the next couple of days. And so we'll get that one out on the front line. Last but not least, and hopefully not least, because I was a little nervous about the 2006 Volkswagen Tourag that I bought. Now, this one is one that I've not done before, and mainly just because it's a Volkswagen. I don't normally find myself drawn towards the Volkswagens, although I've done really well with some of the Passats and the Jettas because you can buy them reasonable, because a lot of folks are a little nervous about, say, fill in the blank mechanical issue that they've heard they have. Mostly I've just had headaches from a check engine light standpoint, little just odds and end things that have driven me crazy with them. But this one in particular was in really good shape. It's a really nice grayish color, has a really pretty brown, like a baseball glove type leather color on the interior. It's in good shape. I've got a few odds and ends to take care of. I've got one little plastic panel that I have to find that goes on the floor. The buttons on Volkswagens, whether it's your window buttons or your radio buttons, the AC control buttons, are really bad on pretty much any Volkswagen I've ever had about peeling. On this one, the radio buttons are good. It's got the GPS and the backup camera, so those are all good. The control buttons for the climate control are peeling really bad. Actually, where you adjust the fan up and down, it's just white. Someone's worked completely out. So I was able to buy a set of stickers or decals that are going to cover those up for $19.99 on eBay. Also, there's buttons on the overhead control up by like the sunroof buttons that are worn really bad. I was able to buy the same type of decals for those for also $19.99. Those will be in either the end of this week or beginning of next. So that'll be $40 invested. Other than that, and finding this little plastic trim panel that's maybe 6 inches by 3 inches, it goes on the floor panel. It covers up some wiring that goes under the seat. That's really all this one needs. I was actually really impressed after I got it. Other than the AC on it wasn't blowing cold, it took 2 cans of Freon. As of now, I've not seen any leaks, probably more about 1.5 cans, but I haven't seen any leaks as of yet. The AC is still blowing ice cold. So assuming there are no further repairs on this one, I paid $2,600. It only has 140,000 miles, which for an 06 isn't that bad. I expect, and I'm going to be conservative on this one as far as the price that I'm selling, I'm going to sell it for. I could see this vehicle selling for $6,000 or to the right person, $6,500. I'm going to put my sales price of this one at $5,000 just because I know it's a safe number. I know it'll be a quick sale. For someone to walk in and see this, it's a Volkswagen. It's not really a luxury brand, but this one is more of a luxury type feel, especially with the leather and the color of the leather. It just looks really nice. So someone to walk up with $5,000, this should be a pretty easy sale, especially when someone is looking for a Ford Escape or this or that. When they see this, I think it'll be a nice bang for their buck for only $5,000. I paid $2,600. I'm going to say, really, I'm not going to have probably $50 in supplies and parts on this one. Let's say I spend $200. That leaves my total investment at $2,800. This should be a quick $2,200 profit. Now, I'm going on the low end, I know, on the sales price on this one. Like if it sells for $5,500, That's not going to surprise me at all, but I'm going to say $2,200 profit with the possibility of a $27,000 or a $3,000 profit. So if I were to add all of these up, I have a potential profit on all of these and I'm going to do math off the top of my head, which is probably not the best idea, but it looks like $6,700 just on these 3 cars alone. That's in addition to the other ones I have on the front line currently, but the last 3 cars I bought all turned out to be good buys. Now, if I was to go back to the last 3 before that, everything was great except for one. I bought a 2006 Jeep Commander that has a blown head gasket, and that's a whole nother episode in of itself as to why that is. I actually let this one run for like 30 minutes, no overheating. When I put a load on it, which is when I left the auction to drive it home, that's when it started to overheat. So sometimes you're just going to miss stuff. And when you're buying at an auction, it's more limited than if you were at somebody's house. One of the things that I do recommend is when you are looking at the car, start it, let it run while you're looking at it to let it warm completely up. One benefit that you're going to have that I don't when I'm at the auction or when I'm at a auction is that you have the ability to drive it at highway speeds. If I was able to do that on the Commander, I wouldn't have run into the blown head gasket. Luckily for me, it's only like a 7-hour job. There's going to be some parts involved. I bought the whole kit for the head gasket for like $80 on Amazon. That includes head bolts, everything. It's a 5.7 liter. I've got a guy hopefully going to start doing that job tomorrow. We'll send the heads off to make sure they're not warped and then have those, see if the valves are good and everything. Probably have that finished up next week, but that's one of those things that sometimes you're just going to get burned and you're going to, be presented with a problem that you had no idea was there. You got to learn to roll with the punches. So luckily I got 3 good ones this week that are going to more than make up for that unfortunate purchase last week. So that's all for the episode today. If you have not so far, I would be incredibly grateful if you would subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click subscribe right there. If you're, got your Apple or your Stitcher app, just click subscribe. It helps us to be able to provide you with more helpful content, but it also helps other people come across this content that otherwise wouldn't. It prioritizes the placement of this podcast, or if you're on YouTube, the YouTube videos so other people can see them. Also, if you had the time to leave a rating and review, that also helps on iTunes. Just put the star level and be honest with your review. I would love your feedback there. Otherwise, I will see you in episode number 16.